So I'm making this video just in case anyone out there has the old school Foredome hand pieces. Then you're trying to take it apart because it's dirty and gunky because you didn't know anything about when you put grease inside here, you're supposed to let this drip into the garbage can, and you didn't do that. So all your grease went into your handpiece, and your handpiece started to get overheating, and you used to think this thing's a piece of junk because you could only use it for 30 minutes before it started to get hot, and you didn't want to break it, so you stopped using it. Okay, well, anywho's, these are awesome because the new ones, this is just a ring that slides in and out. But on mine, let's see if I can zoom in. It's machined into there and it's press fit. So this is fucking dope. This is so much cooler than just a ring on an aluminum spacer. This thing's dope. But in order to actually, you know what? I'll show you when I put it back together. Let me clean all this shit up and then I'll put it back together and I'll show you how I took it apart because I'm going to need to put it back together the exact same way. So I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to document this now because if I don't, then I won't do it because I'm just going to put it back together. So there's a clip which you have to take off very gently using aluminum jaws. These slip over a vise. And you basically press down and then you press down and then your clips will pop up. Same thing with the second set of clips right there. But in order to move this bearing up, it's press fitting. The reason I wanted to do it is just so I can get up in there and clean lightly with some sandpaper. And this is just with alcohol and toilet paper, just a little bit. I took off most of the rust, but I'm going to put this anti-rust grease I have everywhere on here and then wipe most of it off just because when I put it back together, I don't want to do this for no reason. But yeah, I'm cleaning this. But in order to move this bearing off, I have no purpose to remove the bearing completely. But if you did, like say you wanted to replace the bearings, my bearings work fine, so there's no reason in me replacing them. But say you did want to replace them, you need to make yourself jaws like this so they grip, and then you place your piece in there, and now see it fits like that. And now you just take your mallet and you tap it, not whack, tap it. Make sure you have another hand, so one hand's tapping it, like this hand's tapping it, and this hand's holding it like here and centering it here, making sure you're not wobbling. So it's a 4-finger thing here, the pinky out, just because, you know, fancy. But yeah, you just make sure it doesn't wobble, because if you fuck this up, you can mess up your bearing and then you will have to replace it. But mine's just a little dirty and I want to put an anti-rust coating everywhere inside of here. So that's just my purpose of doing this. But in case you wanted to replace it, this is an old school one, so I hope this helps anyone else who has this and wants to do it themselves and doesn't want to send it in. So yeah. Okay, I know they say that these bearings are lubed for life, but this has been used for a while, and I got this used, and this is an old-ass Foredome. So, check this out. I hope you guys can hear this. That isn't a good bearing. I know you might think so because it's moving really fast, but it's not quiet. Now, compare that to the bearing I just serviced. You can't hear it, and it looks like it's slowing down, like it's not as fast. The reason that is because I lube this. The way you lube bearings, if you don't know, you take whatever this thing is, and you heat them up until they're warm. Not hot, warm. You want them to be about as warm as you are. And then you keep flipping them as you're doing this because you don't want to heat one side more than the other. Because if you've never taken apart bearings, there's a little plastic race in here that separates these. Basically, there's a ball bearing in between your fingers. There's a ball here, a ball there, and it goes all the way around. It's a track. But see where my hand is? There's a rubber or a plastic, sometimes metal, but usually a nylon hand that controls and spaces out those ball bearings. Now, if you heat it up too hot or heat up one side more than the other, you're going to fuck up the inside of your bearings. So that's why I heat it up, keep flipping it. You know, you want to keep it flipping, not like a burger where you cook one side and then you cook the other side. No, cook it both at the same time. Then after it's pretty warm, about as warm as you are, 80, 90 degrees, then you're going to slowly put a couple drops on one side, spin it, put a couple drops on the other side, spin it, and you'll notice that this shit gets absorbed into it. And that's only if you have a dry bearing that sounds like this. Indicator's a dry bearing, it spins, and you can hear it. Spins really fast, and it makes noise. Yeah. So to the not unknowing, this looks great, but if you know anything about bearings, they're crap. And if you're wondering what kind of stuff I use, it's Speed Cream. This is just for skateboard bearings. I don't have real bearing lubricant, but I mean, skateboard bearings are bearings, so I guess this is real bearing lubricant. Oh, whatever. Nice and quiet now. Okay, getting this back on there was a pain in the ass. Let me show you how I did it. So I was trying to move that bearing down. So I had this, which was an aluminum, so that way it would push the bearing down evenly on all sides. And then I took a socket, and then I put it with the flat face down to push down on the aluminum. And then I just took a piece of wooden dowel, drilled a hole in it through the center as best I could, and that went over everything. And then I took my hammer and tap, 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 tap. And then I didn't put this over anything. I think I had it right there on the anvil side of my vise. So just tap, 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 check, tap, 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 check, until I made it to that line where I can put the spring clip back. Focus. Yeah, now I'll put the spring clip back. Since I'm here, I thought I'd show you how to put this bearing on. There's one side that I already used. It's kind of scratched up. I just want to make sure I lined it up, so that way I don't scratch up the nice side. Might as well keep one nice. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna put my phone down for this because I need both hands. Okay, straight that way, almost straight that way. Nope, not quite. There. What about now? Okay, it's pretty straight. Awesome. All right, so watch this. So that's what I have. Basically the same thing, except now it's a vise instead of a piece of wood because I don't want to have to hammer it if I don't have to. And then I'm just going to compress it, turn the vise. Until we almost touch. That's good. A little bit of clearance. Cool. Yeah, I don't really want them touching. That's it. I realized too late because I put it back, and I'm not going to untake it to show you. You're just going to have to trust me on this. So this bearing goes in second. Don't make the mistake that I put and put it on and tighten it, because you're going to have to do what I did, which is untighten it and take it off again. And every time you do that, this is probably why they say send it in. See how it's mushrooming a bit? Yeah, it's not supposed to do that, but that's because I've been hitting it with a hammer. Even a rubber hammer. I don't know why it's doing that, probably just because the impact, and there's a special tool they have. So if you don't like that mushrooming, probably send it in. If you have no money and you say fuck you to these guys because they want to charge too much to fix it or to just grease it because it's an old tool and they're like, oh, you should probably buy a new one, and you want to do it yourself, that's how I did it. And all I did really to get this on here was I took a block of wood and I sat this down and then I squished it until I'm at here. And now this is flat and this is down back to where it was. So you're like, how do you get this in there where it needs to be? Because as you saw earlier, there's a seat like right here where this bearing sits. Easy. Which bit was it? Which bit was it? I just fucking had it. Oh, there it is. This bit. Let's check this out. So this is gonna go. So you have your flat end right there. It's gonna go right there. And it'll push on this bearing like that. Bada bing, bada boom. We're gonna push it in ever so gently. And it's gonna keep pushing. Oh, I think I should show you. This wood is the same piece I used earlier to get it out. I just trimmed it. And we're gonna keep pushing until this bearing seats in there. And I need both hands. I'm gonna come back when I'm done. I realize you don't need that piece of wood with the hollow spike through it. You could just do this and you could crank it. But again, I need both hands. Strike that. A better way is to take this piece and make sure it's the perfect alignment with this one. So that way you have an edge to edge. So that way this fits on the inside. And then that way you'll force the butt of this one to push it in that way, which is what I've been doing. And I got more success this way. Okay, now that it's press fit on, the only thing left is to put this piece on. But since I didn't take a before pic or video, I just wanted to show anyone who was curious why I went through all this trouble. It was like this all the way through. And my handpiece heated up after 30 minutes of use. And not to mention, when I took it apart, there was a little bit of rust, a little bit of corrosion on the inside. So I do not regret doing anything like this. I'm so happy I did all the work, even if I had a little mushroom tip. This isn't the only handpiece I have, which is probably why I was okay doing this. If this was the only handpiece I had, I probably would have not done this, just because I didn't want to risk messing it up. Because this is the second handpiece, and this is the original one that came with the machine, and it's old, and I just wanted it to work. I was just like, fuck it, I'm down to try. But if you aren't confident in your abilities, maybe don't do this, because this was definitely not a beginner thing to do. I'm not a beginner, but I'm also not a pro. This is probably an intermediate job. And someone who's better or more experienced than me would have probably done a better job with that. Something I can recommend for preventing this, aside from using a dead blow, which is what I tried, didn't really work. Try a piece of wood, because a wood's not as strong as metal. I used aluminum, but I think the impact of the hammer on the aluminum was enough for it to just mushroom out a bit. Yeah, that's either try that or try. Where the fuck did it go? Oh, where the fuck did it go? Oh, there it is. Cutting board plastic. Although this might still be a bit too thick. I would honestly recommend softwood, so you can avoid that. But it doesn't affect anything. Like, watch. Oh, whoops. It fits. God damn it, doing this with one hand. If anything, it makes it easier to slip into. See? Let me rotate it. Boom. Index is just fine. Oh man, now I gotta clean that out. Okay, there you go. Just called auto fry is when I put the speed cream, I was treating this like they were skateboards. And I was putting a decent amount of this because on the skateboard, this is going to get wicked away. Always gets wicked away because you're skating. I was treating it like a skateboard. It's not a skateboard. This is actually fine. Auto Fry said that it's great to use. It works just fine because it's for bearings. The problem is I put too much. So now it's acting like a grease and my handpiece is getting warm again. So I'm going to just try and basically splatter it around the walls until these cool off and hopefully, distribute itself evenly, which I'm hoping is going to be fine. It's already kind of